Bella Vista Community Television presents Let's Talk About It with our hosts, J.B. Portillo and Kristy Snyder. And today we'll be talking about the Benton County Jail expansion. The guests are Sheriff Shawn Holoway and Chief James Graves. And now, to the studio for our program.
Good morning, Bella Vista. We're back. And in fact, we just had a beautiful conversation with the mayor about this very topic.
Yes.
Good morning, Kristy.
Hey, JB.
My partner in crime. I probably shouldn't say that today with the chief of police and the sheriff here.
That's right.
We don't do anything wrong. We just do fun things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is one way of visiting the jail.
Oh, that's right. I want to make an introduction again. My good buddy who's been here several times, Chief of Police James Graves.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. And?
Sheriff Holoway.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about some really important things that are on the ballot. In fact, the mayor just left us sample ballots, so we actually know what we're talking about here. But first of all, to get us started, Chief Graves, before we get into all of that, could you please let the citizens of Bella Vista know how important something like this, what
Sure.
do we need for Bella Vista?
Sure. So as chief of police, Bella Vista, we don't have our own jail facility. Constitutionally, that's something that the county sheriff does for us. And so what happens is when we arrest people, many times we don't have the ability to, some people may need to go to jail, and the jail may not have jail capacity, so they don't have the room for them. And so how that affects us is we do have in our community many times repeat offenders, and so they're misdemeanor offenders. They maybe break into cars, maybe burglarize homes, steal things that don't quite rise to the level of a felony or a violent felony that would mandate or that we would have be able to send them to jail. And these folks will go to court. Many times the judge will, tell them, okay, you have to pay this fine or do this community service, and they will not do what they're supposed to do because there are a few people in our society that just won't do the things they're supposed to do. And they're what we call repeat offenders. They'll end up in court over and over and over again and get different warrants called failure to appear warrants from the judge. And they understand, and these people know that at this time, because our jail it's not that we don't have a good jail or the sheriff doesn't want to allow us to put people in his jail. It's that he's reached capacity. The jail was built at a certain time for a certain size, and the county's grown so fast, population has grown so fast, that there's just not room. They have to house violent offenders and people that we really have to keep off the streets, and so misdemeanor offenders, many times they don't have the capacity to put those folks in the jail. So that affects the quality of life in Bella Vista, because if we can't put these people in jail, or at least have the ability to put them in jail, then they just keep doing these nuisance type crimes over and over again. They may not be violent crimes, but they are crimes that affect the quality of life to the citizens of Bella Vista. And so I am in support of the jail expansion because it's going to help us maintain the peace and the quality of life in Bella Vista. Because many times these folks, if we have the ability to send them to jail and they know we can send them to jail, then they'll do the things that they're supposed to do to clean up their record or to not get into trouble.
And there's no place in Bella Vista. There's with the new facility, is there maybe just a temporary holding, but then they get moved over?
Correct.
To
So
the
we
jail.
will have a detention facility, but it's not a long-term facility. You have to meet other requirements for that, and it's not common for a smaller municipality to have its own jail, and nor do we really want it. It's a very complicated task, and it's something best left to the sheriff because he has the professional staff that can manage that. And so that's where our jail is, and so we support the expansion of that jail, because without that expansion, then we just can't maintain the peace that we need to maintain in our city.
Well, that is a beautiful segue to start talking to the sheriff. Welcome. We're so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad I met you on terms like today.
And real quick, because you mentioned this before at the Coffee with the Cop, about how the misdemeanors are not actually being put into the jails now.
Correct.
So what does that mean for the public?
That just means that they will routinely go out when they realize there's no consequences to their actions. They'll just go out and do things again and again and again. And so instead of solving the problem, so you can give me all the police officers I want, you can give me all the money I want, you can give the courts all the money they need, but if we can't put some people, not most people don't need to go to jail. Most people, when they get caught and they go in front of the judge, they kind of change their behavior, they do what they're supposed to do. But there's a small percentage of the population that will not do what they're supposed to do, and so they'll just what we call repeat offenders.
Right.
And so until we can have the ability to send those people to jail, or at least threaten to send them to jail, and they realize that, then they're going to keep doing what they're doing.
Okay.
So tell us about your jail.
So our current jail was built about 1997 when it opened. The jail at that time, Sheriff Andy Lee was the person who had the vision for that current jail that was built. And I can remember being a young officer at Rogers Police Department when that was built. The current jail at that time was downtown. We called it the Dungeon because it was so old. But the current jail, when it was built, I remember us having discussions as to why are we building a prison? Because it seemed so big. And why are we putting it out in the middle of nowhere, which is not in the middle of nowhere
Anymore?
No, it may not even be in the center. But anyway, on that aspect of when that was built, Northwest Council had determined our population where it was going to be at in 2020. They missed it by 109,000. So the jail was built for a much smaller population. It was built originally for around 450 beds. We've done some add-ons through the years. We currently have 669 beds. This year we've been averaging anywhere from 700 to 850 people on any given day. That number floats around and moves. But that tells you right there, there's times when we have over 150 people possibly sleeping on the floor with a makeshift bed, which is not a good situation. It's not humane. And it's going to get a suit at some point if we don't have a remedy for it. Prior to COVID, starting around 17, running all the way up to right before COVID, we were starting to feel the growing pains of our population. There hasn't been any certain type of area of crime that's been going up, but per capita, more people moving here means all crimes move up, and that's what we're experiencing. This is a great place to live still right now, and I've lived here my whole life, and people move here and people stay here because we have something really special here. You go to other places in the country that you won't find anything like what we have here.
Or even in the state.
Yes. Low crime rate with the population we have is unheard of.
Yeah.
And part of that has been all the leaders of our communities in Northwest Arkansas and here in Benton County. All of our cities have always been proactive with law enforcement. We have great police agencies here. Officers are better trained here, in my opinion, than most places in the country that I've seen when I've gone to classes. But our leaders had the fortitude and vision to look out for our future and gave us the current facility we have now that has lasted us 25 years, but we've reached the point that we have to make a decision like they did many years ago what our future is going to be. The jail is the backbone of the entire criminal justice system. Like the chief was saying, it doesn't matter what type of resources we do. He could hire more officers, I could hire more deputies, we could have more courts, but at the end of the day, if you don't have that final consequence, if you don't do what I'm telling you, what the judge is telling you, a lot of times we try to do all the different things we can do for diversions, keep you on probation. If you don't do those things, you're going to go to jail.
Right.
So that certainty of knowing if I break a law in Benton County or in Bella Vista tonight, I'm going to jail versus, you know what, I'm going to do this. They can't put me in jail. So
Right.
it's like a child that has no discipline or a grandchild that doesn't have that.
It's a threat without the follow through.
After a while, you're going to have a little monster
Yeah.
who doesn't behave because there's no consequence for their actions. So that's where we're at on that. We're talking about repeat offenders here recently. I think we had one day, we had about 750 inmates on that one particular day, and I had them run a stat. I was just curious, how many of these people have been to our facility before? Of 750, the average was 17.4 times individuals had been to our facility.
Wow.
that's an alarming number. And
I wish people would go to the library more
yes,
than that.
so with this project, I got to looking at what are our shortcomings and what our current facility is, and what are the needs of our community. One of the biggest things that I've always been for, I'm for anything that we can do to reduce our recidivism rates. And I've always believed technical training or getting people who are in my care out doing something positive on our work crews, which is one of the things that I ran on.
Right.
And that was very successful, but as our population grew, then we've got to the point now, the dynamics of who we hold in our jail are way different than they were 5 years ago.
Oh.
That's what the major difference is, and especially 10 years ago, if you go and look. 10 years ago, you'd have a mixture of misdemeanors from the cities, and you'd have the low-level felons and people on probation, parole, and then we'd have the more serious nature crimes, or murder, rape, those things that no one wants to deal with, and we don't want them in our community. As time's gone on, first thing that got cut, we quit holding the misdemeanors because by law I'm mandated to hold the felons, not the misdemeanors, and when the judge in a circuit court orders someone to jail, I have to obey that order, which means I got to kick a misdemeanor out to hold a felony. So we've been gradually tick-tocking our way up the scale. Misdemeanors went first. In the last 2 years, especially before COVID, and I'll talk about COVID, that was a whole different craziness we all went through. But where we're at now, we're not holding very many low-level felons because we have so many violent felons that the judges and the prosecutors often, we send a list over weekly, and they look at a list. They need to put 10 people in jail on a violent charge. We play the game of who's the least bad.
Oh, my.
None of these people we want to let out in our community.
Right. And then that
until-
affects your work crews.
Yeah, it affects everything. So, do I let the sex offender out, or do I let the guy out who's there for the 5th time for drugs? They both need help. They both need reformed, but the person who's harming our children or that nature, we are not going to let them out. So that's the choices we're making on a daily basis. So the work crews, like we were talking, that was one of the things I've been trying to expand that. We are now going backwards. I can't feel some of our crews that go out and do good in the community, helping Habitat for Humanity, for example, or helping Bella Vista at a cemetery, or the various different functions that we help in the county. We can't fill those crews with inmates to get them doing something positive because the people I'm holding now, I don't feel safe to let outside the facility because they've failed to appear 15, 20 times. They've fled from law enforcement. So you give them a chance, they're going to be gone and they'll be out committing more crimes.
So how did we get to where we are right now? I know you've been working, or the leaders have been working on a solution to this for what, couple or 3 years?
Yeah, I was working on this for about 2 years, since 17, honestly.
Yes.
I started recognizing that, and we were looking at smaller projects that we could do. Band-aids is what I would call them. Anytime you start adding onto a house and you add a room or this or that, after a while you're going to reach capacity on your infrastructure. And for us, we've reached capacity that we can't do Band-aids anymore. Some of the things like our boilers, for example, that heat our water and our heaters, they're maxed out right now. Our kitchen right now was designed at max to feed 500 people a day, 3 meals a day. We're doing 850. The kitchen's running all day. The laundromat, same way, it's running 24 hours a day. The infrastructure of the control systems for the doors and all that, that's all starting to age as well. So part of this project, not only we're not building a total new jail, we have to stay operational while we're doing. There'll be logistics with that, but once new portions are built, we will have to move people from the current jail to the new jail and then start refurbishing the current facility. So there's going to be a lot of things that go with this.
So the mayor was just talking earlier about, I think that people have been working on and trying to find a solution for a very long time. What's the location? Is it in the same, are you anticipating it be right where it is, but a different building, or?
No, so we will use our current building.
Yes.
Everything would be around the current building. Part of it, where we're going to the road department where it's at now, they can relocate to other substations. A portion of it will be coming out in the big open field that you see in front of the sheriff's office.
Yes.
So it's basically going every direction around it.
Gotcha. Okay.
They're looking at logistically, is this one facility, how does it function on a daily basis, and where do we put this piece and that piece? So looking at this project, there's 3 things that I needed solved in this. One was the programming. That includes our work detail programs, but that also includes in-house training for various things. It could be for drug, alcohol, but the one thing I've seen that has been the most successful are faith-based organizations in our community that volunteer their time to come in and help the men and women who have honestly reached bottom in life and are looking for something, and they offer help for a lot of these people. Right now I only have like 3 small areas that honestly in any given day I might be able to get 40 people through based on our current population of moving people. That we call them day rooms. There's 3 of them. Not enough. So with the design that I've been looking at, we will have about 26 day rooms, which will means I'll be able to open the floodgates to all of our churches in our area that want to come and do some work for the men and women who are needing it, and open it up to all the other successful programs for drug treatment, alcohol treatment, and various things that we don't have now. So that was one aspect I looked at that's an issue now. During COVID, we realized real quick, medical,
Yes.
the jail was not designed to be a hospital or treat anything. I have 1 bed for 850 people sometimes. That's not acceptable. What we found during COVID, it was a disaster, to be honest, but there was nothing we could do about it. We became the spot in the entire state for most cases of COVID in one spot. We went from about 15 or 20 to about 380 in about 2 days, just because of the proximity of people. Fortunately, we didn't have anyone in the jail die. We had people that got sick, and including employees.
Yes.
The employees are just, a lot of people forget about that aspect of it.
And then they didn't have to quarantine in the jail?
Yeah, it was a learning process. Unfortunately, during all that, we did lose a officer, just like Bella Vista did to COVID. He was one of our guys working out at the courthouse. But so with this, I realized we need to have a professional medical area, because right now we try to treat what we have. We have a medical contract. We have doctors and nurses come in. But if it gets to certain things we can't do, we're having to take them to local hospitals, which manpower, but it's also a danger to the officer and to the public. If we can do those things inside the facility, that would be much better.
Right.
And it would honestly will be cheaper in the long run, because going to a hospital, we all know, is not cheap.
Oh, no.
And it also will reduce those who are faking things that want to go to the hospital for
They
to get
don't do that, do they?
Yeah, they do. Well, when it started, everyone wanted to have COVID.
Yeah.
Because they thought if they got COVID, they got to get released. And then they realized they weren't getting released. But if you didn't have COVID before you came to medical, you had it when you left, because everyone was coming to a centralized spot services, which won't work during a pandemic, we learned.
Right.
So that's another aspect. The third thing that I needed to address is a major issue in our communities here, but statewide and nationwide, is mental health treatment and illness. Unfortunately, it's everywhere in our communities. A lot of these people need help. They need the correct medications. Chief can tell you that, dealing with people in our careers, we've dealt with these type of people everywhere. They've got off their meds, and they are very problematic for law enforcement, and they're very problematic for the jail. These people are suicidal, and they're labor intensive for us.
Have to get some water.
Yeah. You got her all choked up.
I know. So the people with mental health that are in facility, I've heard people tell me, well, why is the sheriff being the mental health treatment center? We probably shouldn't be, but the reality of it, those people are going to end up with me regardless. Because they've got to the point that they've either got arrested by law enforcement because the state that they're in, they commit a crime, and they come to us. We tried to get them out. If we let them out, they're just going to do something else, and they're going to be right back. Finally, a lot of them will end up getting a charge that's serious enough that becomes a felony, that they require evaluation by the mental hospital in Little Rock. Problem is, the list to get in there, it can take up to a year to get in there. just to tell the judge, can this person stand trial? Or are they mentally? So what inevitably happens, they end up at the county jail, which means we have to check them 24 hours a day, every 10 to 15 minutes. Right now, I have 30 of those. So you can picture what 30 of people, how labor intensive that is. They often try to hurt themselves, and we have medical there, but we are not equipped. And we don't have a particular area that's safe for these people. It needs to be a softer environment than what you currently have in a jail. Less metal, less concrete, padded cells. But more importantly with this, we've been looking at putting on top of our medical, also having a mental health pod in here with a full-time psychiatric doctor and the support staff that they need, that we can get these people to the point that we can get their medications levelized and get them back to somewhat of normal, and hopefully get them out of our facility and off to a professional facility somewhere where we can get them functioning in life again and not be in the county jail. Because a lot of these people, yeah, they got arrested for something, but they probably would have done that if they have the mental health issue to start with.
They have other resources.
And I think there's probably, if you look around, everyone has had a family member or a friend that's been affected by mental illness at some point. If you haven't, you will.
Mental illness or just deep depression and anxiety and all of that leads to craziness.
Yep, so
And I
currently
don't-
we provide
no pun
counseling
intended. Yeah.
to our medical provider.
Yeah.
They're overwhelmed
Yeah.
with inmates who have mental issues and want mental health treatment and counseling. So we will be able to greatly expand those needs. I believe a combination of all the stuff I just talked about with the programming, the medical and mental health, I think in the long run, I believe as a community, we will see a reduction in our recidivism rate. Instead of just locking people up, people, why are you want to build such a big jail? I don't want to just lock people up.
Right.
But we want to correct the behavior that got them there to start with.
There are two issues for people to vote for on the
Yes.
8th. So let's talk about those. One of them is really we'll talk about the one that's to build
Yes,
the
so
facility.
the first one is for a quarter of a cent of 1 penny sales tax.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't understand that. It's not 25 cents, it's a quarter of 1 penny sales tax. That is to build a facility, and only to build a facility. And this tax, once the facility has been paid for, will go away. It will sunset. That's what was done to build the current jail back in the day. We believe with our current growth and the way our tax base has been growing that we can, the max was like 14, 16 years. We believe we can pay it off way sooner than that.
Because it's growing.
But we can't guarantee that. But I believe, in my opinion, it definitely will be under 10 years. The second one is a operating and maintenance tax, is what they call those.
Yes.
And that's to operate a facility of this size. We've been very lucky with our tax base and the growth we've had that we've been able to operate our current jail and facilities there. We are the only big county in the state of Arkansas who doesn't currently have one of these type of taxes. Let me make sure I read that. So we've been operating without one. Even our sister county south of us, they have one of these. And I believe they're asking to add on to theirs because I believe they're asking for an expansion as well.
Right.
But they're asking for money to operate it because they're very expensive to operate. I may have said these backwards here.
The operation one is the short one, I think, right?
Yeah. I'm going to confuse everybody here. Yeah, so the first one, the quarter, is the permanent one for operating and maintenance. And the 1.25, a lot of people, why 0.125? Well, that's the lowest legally that we can ask for. So we were aware of the economy and where people are. And so much like a house, you got to think of this, we're buying a house, not a car. This is going to be a long-term mortgage.
Yeah.
So we wanted to ask for the least amount that we could and still be able to build this for what we believe is needed for this county. We believe this facility will last us the next 20 to 25 years, much like what we have now. A lot of people have asked me, why so big? We don't need all of it right now, but we're doing it because it is our opinion, and I believe it, looking at the numbers, we're saving our citizens money over the long term because it's cheaper to build it today.
Are any of the court facilities moving out there too, or not?
Yeah, but we're not asking for.
We're not asking
We're
for
not
that.
asking taxpayers to pay for that. We're going to find other means to do that.
Gotcha. I'm glad we cleared that up.
And this
Okay.
wasn't your first choice to raise taxes.
No, I would rather. Who wants to pay more taxes?
That's right.
I
That's
don't.
right.
But you know what? This is the one tax I think everyone can look at and say, I know what this is being used for,
Yeah.
and how I know directly how this is going to affect me, because this is going to affect my quality of life. It's going to affect our safety in our schools and our communities. We have other taxes that go to build schools and parks and things of that nature, but none of those things matter if you don't feel safe to go there.
Right.
You know, you both said something really important that I want to point out. We don't need this new jail or facility or anything else because we're having more criminals now. It's more about the growth, period. And with that comes trouble and the need for larger facilities to house even the misdemeanors and things like that. So it's not like all of a sudden we're being inundated with criminals and need the space.
Right.
It's for a totally different
So I'll
reason.
give you an example. Our current facility was built in '97, and the voters approved that then. It was about a $16 million project. That same building today, with all the infrastructure and land and all the things that have to go in to put a new commercial construction in, that'd be about a $120 million building 25 years ago. So over the last 25 years, by doing it then, instead of Band-Aided, we saved the taxpayers over $100 million.
Yes.
So let's look at this current project. So I actually looked at those numbers looking on that. If this project costs $200 million, we're only going to need like, I think 167, but just say if it costs $200 million, that probably would with the courts, all that added on. 20 years from now, that $200 million building would cost the taxpayers $1.6 billion.
Wow. Yeah. Yep.
So building that today is saving us, essence, my kids, some of these people's grandkids, we're saving ourselves basically $1.2 billion by doing it now.
Right. And it's also 3 years to build.
Yes.
And so the cost in the next 3 years is going to go up.
Yes, so commercial construction is going up about 10% a year. So one of the things that we plan to do, so we'll have the tax to build the jail.
Right.
And then we've got the one for operating, and we're going to take that money and pay it towards the bond to try to pay it down as quick as we can, because we won't need that money for about 3 years. But we'll start collecting it. So that's why I was saying we know that we'll be able to pay it off way sooner.
You know, I miss some of the programs you used to do. I know I'm a master gardener, so
That's been a great program for us.
I know, and we're not doing that now, right?
Yes,
can't-
we are.
We're still doing it. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
we grew over 4,000 pounds of produce this year that we gave to a local food pantry.
That is, I'm glad to know that.
Wow, that's
All
cool.
I do for them now is handle the money, so I forget about all the
Yeah.
things that are actually. But that
It was a record year for us.
There's a beautiful program you guys do.
That program does amazing things for the inmates that are involved with it. The men did it this year. Sometimes the women do it.
Yeah.
We would like to have both. We've been short-staffed. I can go back to some numbers. The first year we did for the women, I think we had about 25 women went through that.
Yes.
We're there for most of the summer. Not some of them come and go. 90% of those women never came back to Benton County Jail.
And that's what you want. You want to be able to
Right.
train these, or not train, but give them something to make their life useful so they don't need to come back to the jail.
Yeah, so we need more of that.
Yes.
At the end of the day, if we don't have that jail as
Right.
the final answer, no program or alternative sentencing will work if there's not the threat that if I don't do this, I'm going to go to jail, so I'm going to do this. We have one of the largest drug courts in the state, and it's very successful. And people are, well, just throw more people in drug court. Well, they try to handpick the people they know that will be successful. Some people, it's just not right for them. But these type of programs, that wouldn't work either. It could be larger, but the threat, if I don't do this, going to jail is not there. So that you can almost look at any aspect of any type of alternative sentencing. If you don't have that, none of those things will work.
Is there any place? There's no. Obviously, if there were, you would do it. But there's no place to send some of those more hardened criminals away from you into.
How come they don't go to prison?
Yeah.
So we need more prison beds in the state. I'm hearing that the new governor is very in tune to that. So there'll probably be something coming down the pipeline for that. That will be 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But on the aspect, say today we had a new prison and they were going to take all of our prisoners that were waiting on a prison bed that have been sentenced. 850 people. Of that, about 120 to 150 of those are waiting on a prison bed. So you take that number away, I'm still overcapacitated.
Yes, you are. Yes, yes.
That's a lot of people. I'm like, I hope they do that, and that will help us a little bit. That will not solve our problem because we have just grown at an unprecedented rate. We are the 34th fastest growing county in the nation out of 3,000 plus counties.
And they
We're in
have
the
a
top
target,
1%.
There's a target population growth.
Yeah, they're saying by 2045, this county will be approaching about 600,000. Today, we're around 300,000.
Yeah.
Our sister counties south of, you combine them together with us, we will be over 1 million people in northwest Arkansas.
The city already, the county, owns the property
Yes.
now, so you're not buying land. You already have the land.
And where exactly is it?
So it's on Highway 102, going
14th
out of,
Street. Yeah.
going west out of Bentonville towards Centerton.
Yeah. We're pushing our time limit. Man, you know, we always have guests that we
I
can
know.
talk to for hours.
I know.
He asked earlier about, do I have 2.5 hours? Well, no, I wish. But let's recap
Okay.
really quickly, both of you, about, so everybody jump in
And
here.
it's on the ballot.
It's on the ballot. We have 2 issues that you do it.
So the first one, we have a 1/4 cent sales tax to build the facility. I mean, I did it again. To operate and maintain the jail after it's built. That's all aspects that go into it, from employees to future maintenance of the facility. And then we have a second one, which is 0.125 of a penny to build it and bond the building out to about 14 to 16 years that we believe that we can pay off much sooner.
Okay. Yes, and along with many other things on the ballot, these 2 are really important
Yep.
to the citizens of Benton County.
You know, I've lived in northwest Arkansas for 50 years and been in law enforcement now a little over 28 years and been involved in politics and just things of our growth of our county in general. But these are 2 of the biggest things I believe that are going to affect our future that determine, are we going to be northwest Arkansas, or in about 5 years are we going to start looking more like a Little Rock, Arkansas, or some of these other places that we see that haven't taken those steps that we're asking our citizens to choose.
So this is not it would be nice to have. This is a definite need.
This is me trying to sound the alarm. If we don't do something, there's going to be consequences, I believe, in our society that we don't want.
Yes.
It's hard to go back if you lose it.
Right.
That's right. Chief Graves,
No,
any last
I
words?
agree 100%.
Yeah.
We need that jail capacity. Citizens of Bella Vista need to understand that if we want Bella Vista to maintain Bella Vista, and I'll speak of Bella Vista, then we need this capacity in order to maintain our public safety.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much. I would like to have additional conversations with you sometime because
So I'll
there's so
come back
much.
and we'll talk about something else.
Yeah, let's do.
Yeah.
We
Let's
can
talk
do
about
that.
what a sheriff really does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Besides administration.
Yes.
I'd love
but
to.
thank you so much,
Thank you.
and always thank you, always.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I thank you for putting this together because I think it's a very important topic for
That's
not only
right.
Bella Vista, but you know, I think
And
Northwest
get out
Arkansas.
to vote.
Please vote.
Yeah.
Please vote.
Get out to vote.
All right. Well, I don't know how we're going to, make this even more exciting next month, but we'll be back.
We'll figure it out.
And we will bring you something more that we need to talk about. So thank you. And this is JB Portillo and my sidekick
Kristy Snyder.
signing off for this month. See you soon.
This has been Let's Talk About It, presented by the Bella Vista Community Television. View this program on YouTube by going to Bella Vista Community Television or BVCT. Thank you for joining us.